11 fleets vanished at Earth's border before I was assigned to find out what happened to them, and not one of them left a trace. No wreckage, no debris field, no distress call, no bodies, nothing. A fleet would cross the line Earth had drawn, ignoring the warnings the way the strong always ignore the warnings of the weak, and then it would simply cease to be, gone between one sensor sweep and the next, as if the void itself had swallowed it whole. The galaxy called it the Quiet. The worlds along the human frontier spoke of it in whispers, the place where fleets went and did not return, and the whispers had done more to protect Earth than any wall of warships ever could. I was sent to find out the truth of the Quiet, because my masters could not believe a minor species had a weapon that erased fleets, and I found the truth, and the truth was the strangest and most merciful thing I have ever uncovered, and I have spent the years since deciding whether the galaxy can be trusted to know it. Let me tell you who I am, because the whole story is the story of an investigation, mine, and an investigator is only as good as the things they are willing to see. My name is Korrian-Vess, and I am Setha, an old, careful, watchful people, and within my people I was something like what you would call an intelligence analyst, an investigator, attached to the intelligence service of the Holt Concordance, one of the great powers that bordered human space. My work was the uncovering of secrets, the capabilities of rivals, the truths behind the rumors, the hard facts beneath the legends that drift between the stars. I was good at it. I did not believe in legends. I believed in evidence, in the patient assembly of fact, in the principle that every mystery has a mundane explanation if you are willing to dig deep enough and look hard enough and refuse to be frightened off by the fear that surrounds the thing you are investigating. The Quiet was the greatest mystery on the frontier, wrapped in the greatest fear, and my masters sent me to dig beneath the fear and find the fact. I want to explain the fear, because the fear is the thing this whole story is really about, and because I went into the investigation certain that the fear was hiding an atrocity. 11 fleets had vanished at Earth's border over a span of 9 years. They were not all human enemies. That was the strange thing, the first strange thing, the thing that should have told me sooner that I was not dealing with what I thought I was dealing with. Some were conquerors who had marked Earth for absorption. Some were raiders. One was a great power's punitive expedition, sent to teach the humans a lesson after a border dispute. They had nothing in common except this. Each had crossed the line Earth had drawn around its space, ignoring Earth's warnings, and each had vanished completely without a trace and never been heard from again. 11 fleets, thousands of ships, hundreds of thousands of crew, gone, and the galaxy naturally drew the conclusion that the galaxy always draws, that Earth possessed some terrible weapon, some unimaginable annihilating force, that erased whole fleets without leaving so much as a molecule behind. The humans had become, in the galaxy's whispered imagination, the most terrifying power on the frontier, not because anyone had seen them fight, but precisely because no one had. Because their enemies did not die in battles that could be witnessed and assessed, but simply disappeared into the quiet. And silence is more frightening than any reported atrocity, because the mind fills silence with its worst imaginings. And I, Korrian-Vess, intelligence analyst, went to the frontier convinced that the silence was hiding an atrocity. That was my hypothesis, and I want to be honest about it, because the wrongness of it is the heart of the story. I believed the humans had a weapon of mass annihilation, something so terrible they kept it secret, and that the vanished fleets had been slaughtered, vaporized, disintegrated, reduced to nothing by some weapon the humans did not want the galaxy to understand. I believed the Quiet was a graveyard, and that the humans were monsters who had found a way to murder without leaving evidence, and I went to prove it, to find the truth of the slaughter and bring it back to my masters, who wished to know what weapon they might one day face. I was looking for an atrocity. I was so certain I would find one that, for a long time, I could not see the evidence that I had found the opposite. Let me tell you about Earth's border, because the border is where the investigation began. The humans had drawn a line around their space, a clearly marked boundary announced on every frequency, backed by warnings as clear as warnings can be. This is the edge of human space. Cross it with hostile intent and you will not return. We are not bluffing, turn back. The warnings were old now, refined over years, and they had a quality I noted even in my first review of them, a quality I did not understand until much later. They were not gloating. A power that possessed a fleet-erasing weapon and wished to terrify its enemies would have made its warnings triumphant, boastful, cruel. Look upon the fate of those who defied us. The human warnings were not like that. They were almost weary, almost sad, the warnings of someone who has had to do a terrible thing many times and takes no pleasure in it and would very much prefer not to do it again. Please turn back, the human warning said in essence. We do not want this. Do not cross the line. I noted the tone and filed it as strange and did not understand it because it did not fit my hypothesis of monsters hiding a slaughter. I began where an investigator always begins, with the evidence or the absence of it. And the absence was the first thing that troubled my hypothesis, though it took me a long time to admit it. Because if the humans had vaporized 11 fleets, there should have been traces. Annihilation, real annihilation, leaves evidence, energy signatures, residual radiation, debris too small to recover but detectable, the spectral fingerprint of matter violently unmade. I had access through my service to the long-range sensor records of the regions where the fleets had vanished, and I studied them, expecting to find the signatures of mass destruction. I found nothing. Not the signatures of destruction, not the signatures of battle, not the signatures of weapons fire at all. The fleets crossed the line and then in the records they were simply absent, not destroyed, absent, the way a thing is absent when it has been removed rather than killed. There was no battle, there was no annihilation. There was a fleet, and then there was no fleet, and nothing in between, no violence at all that any sensor had recorded. This troubled me deeply, because it did not fit. A weapon that vaporizes fleets leaves the evidence of vaporization. A weapon that left no evidence at all of any kind was not a weapon of annihilation. It was something else, something I had no category for, and the not having a category is the beginning of every real discovery, the moment your hypothesis cracks and the truth begins to show through. The fleets had not been destroyed. I became, slowly, certain of that, against my own expectations, against the entire galaxy's certainty. The fleets had not been destroyed. They had been removed. And a fleet that is removed rather than destroyed is a fleet that might, somewhere, still exist. And if it still existed, then the entire legend of the Quiet, the entire terror that protected Earth, was built on a lie. And the truth beneath the lie was a thing I could not yet imagine but had to find. I went looking for the vanished fleets, not their wreckage. I had stopped believing in wreckage. I went looking for the fleets themselves, alive somewhere, on the theory that you cannot remove thousands of ships and hundreds of thousands of beings without putting them somewhere, and that wherever the humans had put them, there would be a trail, however faint, because nothing that large moves through space without leaving some trace for an investigator patient enough to find it. And I found the trail. It was faint, and it was buried, and it took me 2 years of the most careful work of my career. But I found it, the ghost of a path leading away from Earth's border into a remote and empty region of space, the spore of something vast being moved, quietly, again and again, to somewhere the galaxy was not meant to look. And at the end of the trail, in a place no one had any reason to go, I found the answer to the greatest mystery on the frontier. And it was not an atrocity, and it was not a graveyard, and it was the most astonishing thing I have ever seen. Let me tell you what I found at the end of the trail. Let me tell you what really happened to the 11 fleets that vanished at Earth's border. The truth that the whole galaxy believes is a slaughter. And that is, instead, the opposite of a slaughter, the strangest mercy ever devised, hidden inside the most terrifying reputation on the frontier. And let me tell you the choice it left me with. The choice I am still not certain I made rightly. When an investigator who went looking for a monster found, at the end of the trail, something he had no idea what to do with. Because the truth was kinder than the lie, and the lie was saving more lives than the truth ever could. What I found at the end of the trail was a star with no name, in a region the charts called empty, and around that star, in wide, quiet orbits, the 11 vanished fleets. All of them whole, intact, crewed, alive. I want to tell you what it was like to come upon them, because I had spent 2 years building a theory of slaughter, and the theory died in an instant, the moment my instruments resolved the first of the orbiting shapes and told me what it was. A warship, undamaged. Powered down but not destroyed, holding station in orbit around the nameless star, exactly as it had been when it crossed Earth's border, except that its weapons were dark and its drives were stilled, and it hung there peaceful in a vast slow orbit, one ship among thousands. I swept the system, and the readings came back, and I could not believe them, and I checked them and checked them again, the way I had checked the sensor records of the border, and the answer did not change. The 11 fleets that the entire galaxy believed had been annihilated, vaporized, erased without a trace, were here, floating peacefully around a star no one had charted, in a corner of space no one had reason to visit, every ship intact, every crew, by the life readings, alive. The humans had not destroyed the fleets. They had taken them, the whole of them, ships and crews and all, removed from Earth's border and brought here, to this quiet, nameless place, and held. The quiet was not a graveyard. It was a holding. The most terrifying weapon on the frontier, the fleet-erasing annihilator that had made humanity the most feared power on the border, was not a weapon of destruction at all. It was a weapon of removal, some technology I still do not fully understand, some means of seizing a hostile fleet whole, disabling it without firing a shot, and spiriting it away, alive and intact, to a place where it could do no harm and from which it would not return. The humans had found a way to make their enemies vanish without killing a single one of them. And they had let the galaxy believe it was annihilation, because annihilation is what frightens, and the fear was what protected them. And the truth, the merciful truth, the truth that no one died, was the most carefully kept secret on the frontier. I sat in my small ship at the edge of that system for a long time, looking at the impossible thing, my whole investigation inverted in a single moment. I had come to expose a monster. I had found instead the opposite of a monster, a power that could have killed hundreds of thousands of its enemies, and had chosen instead, at what must have been enormous cost and effort, to make them disappear alive. I did not understand it yet. I understood only that everything I had believed was wrong, and that the wrongness was in the most hopeful direction imaginable, and that I had to know more. So I did the thing my masters would have forbidden, the thing no careful intelligence analyst should ever do. I went closer. I brought my ship into the system, quietly, carefully, expecting at any moment to be seized myself, to vanish the way the fleets had vanished, to become the 12th disappearance. I was not seized. I moved among the orbiting ships, the powered-down warships of a dozen powers, and I studied them, and I began to understand the shape of what the humans had built, because it was not merely a holding pen. There were human ships here too among the captured fleets, tenders, supply vessels, something that looked like a station, a human-built thing at the heart of the system, around which the captured fleets were arranged. The humans were not just holding their vanished enemies, they were tending them. And then a human ship found me. I had been so absorbed in the impossible discovery that I had grown careless, and a human patrol vessel. There were patrol vessels, I realized, moving among the captured fleets, came upon my small ship, and I knew in that moment that I had become the 12th disappearance, that I would vanish now like all the rest, and that no one would ever know what I had found. I did not run. There was no point in running. I had built my whole life on the principle of facing the truth, and the truth had a human face now, and I would face it. I powered down my weapons, I had few enough, and I opened a channel and I waited. The human who hailed me was not what I expected. I expected a soldier, a guard, the cold voice of a captor. The voice that came back was tired, and kind and a little rueful, the voice of someone who has been caught doing something they did not especially want kept secret but had kept secret anyway for reasons. The human said, "Well, you found us. I have to say that's genuinely impressive. We've worked very hard to make sure nobody could follow that trail and you followed it anyway. Setha intelligence, I'm guessing. Holt concordance. You people are the only ones patient enough to have managed it." A pause. "I'm not going to hurt you. I want you to relax as much as you can because I can imagine what you're feeling right now, sitting out here certain you're about to become the 12th fleet that vanished. You're not. That was never how this works and you're about to understand why. My name is Commander Iris Chen. I run this place. And since you've come all this way, and since you're clearly the kind of person who won't rest until they understand a thing completely, why don't you come aboard and I'll show you exactly what we've built out here and what really happens to the fleets that ignore our warnings. You've earned the truth. Almost nobody earns the truth. Come and see." And I went aboard, the intelligence analyst who had come to expose a slaughter, and Commander Iris Chen showed me the truth of the quiet, and the truth unmade me the way it had unmade my hypothesis, completely, in the best way a thing can be unmade. She showed me the captured crews. They were alive, all of them, every crew of every vanished fleet, hundreds of thousands of beings of a dozen species, alive and unharmed and held aboard their own ships and aboard human-built habitats in the system, in conditions that were not imprisonment or not only imprisonment. They were cared for, fed, housed, kept in health, their needs met. The humans had taken hundreds of thousands of their enemies, beings who had crossed Earth's border to conquer or to raid or to punish, and instead of killing them, had brought them here and kept them alive and well, at a cost in resources and effort that staggered me when Commander Chen explained the scale of it. The quiet was not a prison camp, exactly, though the crews were not free to leave. It was something stranger, something I had no word for, something the humans had built quietly over years for a purpose I did not yet understand. "Why?" I asked her. It was the only word I had. "Why would you do this? You could have destroyed them. It would have been easier, cheaper, simpler. You could have actually killed them the way the whole galaxy thinks you did. Instead I gestured at the impossible thing, the living fleets, the tended crews, the vast quiet effort of it. Why?" And Commander Chen looked at me, and she said the thing that began my real understanding, the thing I have carried since. She said, "Because we didn't want to kill them. That's the whole answer, really, underneath everything else. They came here to hurt us, some of them to conquer us, some to raid us, one fleet to punish us for a thing we didn't even do. By every rule the galaxy plays by, we'd have been within our rights to destroy them, and nobody would have blinked. But here's the thing about killing people who come to hurt you. Even when it's justified, even when it's self-defense, they're still dead, and their crews are still somebody's children, and their deaths still feed the cycle. Because every fleet we destroy is a grievance, a reason for revenge, a story the galaxy tells about the terrible humans who slaughter their enemies. We didn't want to be that. We didn't want to kill hundreds of thousands of people, even people who came to hurt us. So we found another way. We figured out how to make a hostile fleet vanish without killing anyone, and we brought them here and we kept them alive, and we let the galaxy think we destroyed them. Because the reputation of destruction protects us better than the truth would, and it costs no lives. We get the deterrent of being terrifying. And nobody actually dies. That's the trade. That's the quiet. The galaxy thinks we're monsters who erase fleets. We're actually the only power on the frontier that's never killed a single one of the beings who came to kill us." I could not speak, and Commander Chen went on because she could see I needed all of it, and she said, "But that's not even the part I'm proudest of. Holding them alive, that's just mercy, and mercy's not that hard once you decide to do it. The hard part, the part that's taken us years, is the other thing we do out here, because we don't keep them forever. Come on. Let me show you what really happens to the fleets that vanish. Let me show you why we built all this. It's not a prison. It never was. It's something we don't have a good word for yet. But when you see it, you'll understand why we've kept it the most carefully guarded secret on the frontier, and why I'm about to trust you, a Holt intelligence analyst, with the whole of it. And she took me deeper into the station, to the thing at the true heart of the quiet, the thing the holding and the tending were only the beginning of. And let me tell you in the next part, what the humans were actually doing with the fleets that vanished at their border, the purpose behind the mercy, the reason a power that could have killed its enemies chose instead to make them disappear alive. Because the truth of the quiet was stranger and kinder even than a holding pen for spared enemies. And what I saw in the heart of that nameless system changed not just my investigation, but everything I believed about what one people could do for another, even an enemy, even one who had come to do them harm. The heart of the quiet was not a prison. It was a school. I do not have a better word for it even now, though school does not capture it, because the thing the humans were doing there was larger and stranger and more patient than any school I had ever known. They were not holding their vanished enemies. They were changing them. And then, when the changing was done, they were sending them home. Let me tell you what Commander Chen showed me, because I can still barely believe I saw it. At the center of the nameless system, in the human-built station around which the captured fleets orbited, the humans had built something for the crews of the vanished fleets. The conquerors, the raiders, the punitive expedition, all of them. And the thing they had built was a slow, patient process of, for lack of any better word, unmaking the thing that had brought those crews to Earth's border in the first place. Because the humans had understood something that I, an intelligence analyst, a student of powers and fleets and capabilities, had never once thought about, that a fleet that comes to conquer or raid or punish is not made of evil beings. It is made of ordinary beings, soldiers, crews, people, who have been shaped by their cultures, their empires, their fears and griefs and grievances into instruments of harm. Destroy the fleet and you destroy the people, and you change nothing about the cultures and empires that made them, which will simply build another fleet. But take the fleet and hold the people and give them time and show them something other than the thing that made them. And you might, the humans had reasoned, actually change something. Not just remove a threat, cure one. I watched it happening. Commander Chen walked me through the station, and I saw the crews of the vanished fleets, not in cells, not in chains, but in something more like a long, slow conversation with their captors and with each other. The humans housed them and fed them and kept them well, yes, but more than that, the humans talked to them, lived among them, showed them day by day, year by year, a way of being that none of these crews had ever encountered, the human way, the way that had made the humans capable of building this impossible, merciful thing in the first place. The conquerors learned, slowly, that they had been instruments of an empire's fear. The raiders learned that they had raided out of desperation that had other solutions. The crew of the punitive expedition learned that the humans they had come to punish bore them no hatred, had spared them, were feeding them, were patiently showing them a different road. And over years, it took years, Commander Chen told me, years per fleet, the crews changed. The thing that had brought them to Earth's border, the fear or the greed or the grievance or the simple obedience to a cruel order, slowly came undone, in the patient company of a people who refused to be their enemy, even though they had every right to be. And then, Commander Chen said, we send them home. That was the part I could not have imagined. The humans did not keep the changed crews. When a crew had, I do not know how to say it, when a crew had healed, had become something other than the instrument of harm that had crossed Earth's border, the humans gave them back their ships, restored and intact, and sent them home. Not as prisoners released, as something else. As people who had vanished into the quiet and come back changed, carrying with them the truth of what had really happened, the impossible mercy, the patient unmaking of their hostility, and carrying it back into the very empires and cultures and fleets that had sent them. The humans were not just sparing their enemies. They were turning their enemies into seeds, seeds of the human way, planted back into the powers that had threatened Earth, to grow there quietly and change those powers from within over time. It's slow, Commander Chen said, when I asked how it could possibly work, how releasing a few changed crews could matter against the great powers of the frontier. It's incredibly slow. We've only sent back a handful of fleets so far. The changing takes years, and we won't rush it, because a crew sent back before they're truly changed would just be a crew with a grudge, and that would make everything worse. But think about what happens when even one fleet comes home changed. They vanished, presumed dead, and then they return alive and they tell their people the truth, that the terrible humans who erase fleets actually spared us, fed us, healed us, and sent us home. That story, told by your own returned dead, does something to an empire that no weapon could do. It cracks the fear. It plants a doubt. It makes people wonder whether the humans are monsters after all, or something else entirely. And the crews themselves, they go back changed, and they live changed, and they raise their children changed, and they become, in their own societies, quiet advocates for a different way of dealing with Earth and with each other. We're not trying to win a war. We're trying to end the conditions that make the wars. One fleet at a time, one crew at a time. It'll take generations, we know. We're playing a very, very long game out here, and the whole of it depends on the galaxy never knowing, because the moment they know, the deterrent collapses and the mercy becomes impossible. And there it was, the reason for the secret, the reason the humans let the galaxy believe in a slaughter. I understood it now fully, and the understanding was the weight that would sit on me for the rest of the story. The whole impossible merciful enterprise, the sparing, the holding, the healing, the seeding of changed crews back into hostile powers, depended absolutely on the galaxy continuing to believe that the quiet was a graveyard. Because the terror of the quiet was what kept most fleets from ever crossing the line at all, the fear protected Earth from the vast majority of attacks, so that the humans only had to spare and hold and heal the few who came anyway. If the galaxy learned the truth, that no one died at Earth's border, that the vanished fleets were alive and being cared for, the deterrent would evaporate. Every power that had been held back by fear would test the line. Earth would be flooded with fleets, far more than it could spare and hold and heal, and the whole delicate, merciful structure would collapse, and the humans would face an impossible choice: abandon the mercy and actually start killing, or be overwhelmed. The lie was not a cruelty. The lie was the load-bearing wall of the mercy. The humans terrified the galaxy with a reputation for slaughter precisely, so that they would almost never have to spare anyone, and so that the few they did spare could be truly, patiently, completely saved. "So now you know," Commander Chen said, when she had shown me all of it. "The whole truth. And now we have a problem, you and I, because you're a Holt intelligence analyst, and your entire job is to take truths like this one back to your masters. And I'm not going to stop you. I want you to understand that. I'm not going to make you the 12th disappearance. I'm not going to hold you. I'm not going to threaten you or your people. We don't do that. You found the truth through your own skill and patience, and the truth is yours now to do with as you decide. But I'm going to ask you to think very carefully about what you do with it. Because if you take this back to the Holt Concordance, if you tell the galaxy that the quiet is a mercy and not a slaughter, you won't be exposing a monster. You'll be destroying the only thing on this frontier that has ever actually saved lives instead of taking them. You'll be tearing down the wall that protects the mercy, and the mercy will die, and the killing will start. Real killing, because we won't be able to spare them anymore. The lie keeps everyone alive. The truth, if you tell it, kills people. I've just handed you the most dangerous secret on the frontier, and I've done it on purpose because I think you're the kind of person who needs to wrestle with it honestly rather than have it kept from you. So wrestle with it, and then decide. We'll abide by whatever you choose, even if you choose to expose us. That's the risk we take by telling the truth to the rare person who earns it." And she let me go. The intelligence analyst who had come to expose a slaughter, sent home by the very power he had come to expose, carrying the most dangerous secret on the frontier and the most agonizing choice of my life. Whether to tell the galaxy the kind truth that would kill, or keep the cruel lie that kept everyone alive. Let me tell you in the last part what I decided, and why, and what it cost me, and what I have come to understand in all the years since, about the strange and terrible and beautiful thing the humans built out there in the quiet, where the fleets that ignored Earth's warnings vanished without a trace, and were not killed but saved. I carried the secret home, and for a long time I did not know what I would do with it, and the not knowing was the hardest thing I have ever lived through, because I am Setha, and we believe in the truth, and I had built my entire life on the principle that the truth must be uncovered and told, that secrets are the tools of the powerful and the light is the friend of the weak. And here I was, holding the most important truth I had ever found, and the truth was begging me to keep it secret. Let me lay the choice out plainly, the way I laid it out for myself, 10,000 times in the long sleepless watches of my journey home. On one side, the truth. The galaxy believed Earth was a slaughterhouse, a power that erased fleets without mercy, and the belief was a lie, and the lie made the humans into monsters in the eyes of the galaxy, a terror, a thing to be feared and hated. The truth would clear them. The truth would reveal that the most feared power on the frontier was, in fact, the most merciful, the only power that had never killed a single one of the beings who came to kill it. By every principle I had ever held, that truth deserved to be told. The humans were being slandered by a reputation they did not deserve, and I had the power to correct it, to give them the honor they had earned, to show the galaxy that mercy, not murder, lived at Earth's border. And on the other side, the cost. Because Commander Chen had been right, and the more I turned it over the more certain I became that she was right. The lie was the wall that held up the mercy. The terror of the quiet was the only reason most fleets never crossed Earth's border at all, and that meant the terror was saving lives, vast numbers of lives, the lives of all the crews who never attacked because they were too afraid, and the lives those crews would have taken in the attacking. The lie kept the peace. The lie meant the humans had to spare only a trickle of fleets rather than a flood, which meant they could truly save each one, patiently, completely. Tell the truth, reveal that no one died, that the quiet was a mercy, and the terror would die and the flood would come, and the humans would be overwhelmed and the whole impossible beautiful enterprise would collapse, and then the killing would start for real, because there would be no other way. The truth would honor the humans and destroy the thing that made them honorable. The truth would clear their name and end their mercy. The truth would kill. I want to tell you that the choice was easy, that the moment I understood the stakes I knew what to do. It was not easy. It went against everything I was. For a Setha to choose a lie over a truth is to betray the deepest principle of our people, and I did not make the choice lightly or quickly or without cost. But in the end I made it, and I will tell you how I came to it, because the how is the thing I am proudest of in my whole long life. I asked myself a single question. I asked, what is the truth actually for? I had spent my life believing the truth must always be told, that telling the truth was an end in itself, a duty independent of consequences. But sitting with the secret of the quiet, I came to understand that this had always been incomplete. The truth is not an end in itself. The truth is for something. We value the truth because, almost always, the truth serves life, serves freedom, serves the good. Because lies are almost always the tools of those who would harm, and truth almost always the friend of those who would be harmed. That is why we love the truth, not for itself, but for what it almost always does. But here at Earth's border was the rarest thing in the universe, a place where the usual relationship was inverted, where the lie served life and the truth served death, where the secret protected the merciful and its exposure would empower the cruel. And I understood, finally, that to tell the truth here, in worship of the principle of truth-telling, would be to betray the very thing the principle existed to serve. I loved the truth because it served life, and here to serve life I had to keep a secret. The principle and its purpose had come apart, and I chose the purpose, because the purpose was always the point. I kept the secret. I went home to the Holt Concordance, and I reported to my masters that I had investigated the quiet and found nothing. A dead end. Some human technology I could not penetrate, some weapon I could not identify, a mystery that resisted my best efforts. I told them the fleets were gone, and the means unknown, and the frontier as dangerous as the legend claimed. I lied to my own masters, I who had never lied to them in a long and honorable career. And I lied to protect a secret that protected a mercy that protected more lives than I could count. It was the only dishonorable thing I ever did, and it is the thing I am most proud of, and I have never told anyone the truth of it until now, until this telling, which I make only because enough time has passed, and enough has changed, that the truth can finally be told without killing. Because the humans were playing a long game, and the long game has been working. In the years since I kept the secret, the fleets they sent home changed crew by changed crew have been doing their quiet work, and the frontier has been changing. Slowly, the way the humans said it would. Fewer fleets cross the line now, not only out of fear, but because the powers of the frontier have begun, here and there, to wonder about the humans, to hear the strange rumors carried by returned crews, to suspect that the terror at Earth's border might be something other than terror. The deterrent still holds, the lie still stands, but underneath it the truth is spreading on its own, in the way the humans intended, carried not by an intelligence analyst's report, but by the changed lives of those who vanished and returned, which is the only way a truth like this one can spread without destroying the thing it describes. The humans are unwinding the cycle of fear and violence on the frontier, one returned crew at a time, slowly enough that the unwinding does not collapse into chaos. And one day, not in my lifetime, but one day, there will be no more fleets crossing the line, not because they are afraid, but because they no longer want to, and on that day the quiet can be revealed for what it always was, and the lie can finally die because the mercy will no longer need it. I have spent the rest of my life as a quiet servant of that day. I never told my masters. I never told the galaxy. But I have done what I could in my small ways to help the humans' long game along. A word here, a buried report there, a gentle steering of my people away from the frontier and toward the suspicion that the humans might be worth approaching rather than fearing. I became, without anyone knowing it, a seed myself, the way the returned crews were seeds, planted in the Holt Concordance by an investigation that was supposed to expose a monster, and instead converted its investigator. The humans did not even have to capture me to change me. They simply showed me the truth and trusted me with it, and the truth did the rest, the way it always does when it is given to someone ready to receive it. Aliens ignored Earth's border warnings, and their entire fleet vanished without a trace. That is the story the galaxy tells, and it is true, and it is a lie, and both at once, which is the strangest thing about it. The fleets did vanish. They did leave no trace. And the galaxy believes this means death, and the belief protects the humans, and the humans let it stand. Because the truth is that not one of those vanished crews died, that every one of them was spared, and held and healed, and most of them in time, sent home, changed, alive, to plant the slow seeds of a kinder frontier in the very empires that had sent them to conquer. The most terrifying power on the frontier is the most merciful. The greatest slaughter the galaxy fears is a slaughter that never happened, and the most dangerous secret on the frontier is not a weapon. It is a kindness so complete that it had to be disguised as a massacre, because the galaxy was not yet ready to believe that mercy could be stronger than murder. And so the humans let themselves be feared as monsters, and bore the slander of it, and did the merciful thing in secret, and asked for no credit, and waited, patiently, for the day the galaxy would finally be ready to learn that the fleets did not die, and that the people who made them vanish were the gentlest power the stars had ever known. I kept their secret. I am keeping it still, even in this telling, because I have changed the names and the places and the particulars, so that no one hearing this could ever find the nameless star or the quiet system, or the truth I am sworn in my own heart to protect. But I wanted the shape of it known, the shape if not the substance, because somewhere out there, Someone is afraid of the terrible humans who erase fleets, and I wanted them to wonder, just to wonder, whether the most frightening thing in the galaxy might, in fact, be the kindest. It is, I found out myself, and keeping that secret in service of the mercy it protects is the truest thing I have ever done with a lie.